The night was quiet. Only the sound of the wind moving across the camp could be heard. The fire burned low, sending soft sparks into the dark air. The human sat close to it, his eyes fixed on the flames. He thought the alien girl beside him was silent. But then he heard her whisper. "I'm not as beautiful as human women," she said quietly. Her voice was almost lost in the crackle of the fire. She kept her eyes down, afraid to look at him, afraid of what she might see in his face. The human turned his head. His eyes studied her, the small alien girl with silver hair that shimmered faintly in the firelight. Her skin glowed softly under the night sky, but her shoulders were tight, her body curled as if protecting herself from unseen pain. For a moment, he did not answer. He could feel the weight of her words. He understood that this was not only a thought but a wound, something that had been told to her many times before. He let the silence stretch, so heavy that she almost regretted speaking. She drew her knees to her chest and hugged them tightly. "It is true," she continued, her voice shaking. "Men from my world do not look at me. Women mock me, even among my own kind. I am plain, weak, and unwanted. And when I look at human women, they are so strong, so beautiful, so perfect, I can never compare." Her words cut through the air like a blade. The fire popped, sending a small ember flying, but neither of them moved. The human's jaw tightened. He had seen her fight to survive. He had seen her share food when she was hungry herself. He had seen her stand between danger and him even though she was afraid. How could she not see what he saw? But he remained quiet. He wanted her to speak everything inside her heart. Her hands trembled as she pressed her forehead against her knees. "I know you will leave one day. Humans always find better. I will not stop you. But before that day comes, I wanted to say it so my heart will not break in silence." Her voice cracked at the end, and the fire's glow reflected in the wetness of her eyes. The human leaned closer. His shadow stretched across her fragile form. He reached out but stopped his hand halfway. He was afraid that if he touched her she might shrink away. Afraid that his comfort might be too heavy for her fragile pride. He whispered instead, "Why do you think beauty only lives in faces?" She flinched. Her eyes lifted slowly, confused. She had expected him to deny her words or to laugh gently. But his question struck her deeper. She tried to answer but stopped. Her lips trembled. "Because that is what they all said. Beauty is in the face, in the body, in the way one shines. And I do not shine, not like others." Her honesty was raw, and it left her more exposed than she wanted. She bit her lip, angry at herself for speaking so much. The human's eyes did not leave hers. In the silence, she saw no mockery, only fire, deep and unshaking. He finally spoke. His voice was low, steady, but carried a strange force that made her heart beat faster. "I don't care," he said. Her breath caught. Her body froze as if those words had broken chains around her. She stared at him, unable to believe. He leaned back slightly, his eyes still burning into hers. "You think human women are more beautiful? Maybe they are, maybe they are not. I don't care. You think your people find you plain? I don't care. What I see is mine, and what I see is enough." The alien girl felt her throat close, her chest tightened. She wanted to look away, but his words held her. The fire snapped again. Shadows flickered over their faces. She shook her head weakly. You cannot mean that. No one has ever said such things to me. No one has looked at me that way." The human's lips curved into something between a smile and a challenge. Then maybe no one else was worth listening to. Her eyes widened. A storm of emotions rushed through her. Fear, doubt, warmth, and something new she had never felt before. It was heavy, and it scared her. She pulled her blanket tighter around her body and turned slightly away. Her heart was racing too fast. "You are strange, human," she whispered. "Maybe," he replied softly. "But I mean every word." The alien girl lay down, but her eyes stayed open, staring at the stars above. The words kept echoing inside. Her chest, stronger than the wind, louder than the fire. For the first time the thought entered her mind. What if she was wrong about herself? What if beauty was not what others said, but something else? Something he saw? She closed her eyes, but sleep did not come. Only his words remained, wrapping around her like unseen hands, holding her in a warmth she did not know she needed. And so the night went on with the fire burning low and two souls sitting close but worlds apart. Yet for the first time, the gap between them had begun to break. The fire had burned lower by the time he spoke again. The alien girl lay curled in her blanket, but her eyes remained open. His words still echoed in her mind, "I don't care." They were sharp, clear, and unlike anything she had ever heard before. She turned slightly to look at him. His face was calm, but his eyes were alive, full of something she could not understand. Humans were confusing to her, loud, strange, always changing, yet his silence was heavier than thunder. "You don't care," she repeated softly, as if tasting the words. "Why? Why would you say such a thing to me?" The human leaned back, his hands resting behind him. His gaze shifted from the fire to the sky above. The stars stretched across the heavens, endless and bright. He breathed slowly, then answered, "Because I see what others don't." The alien girl frowned. Her silver hair slid across her cheek as she tilted her head. "What do you see?" "I have nothing special. I am small, weak, and plain." The human shook his head. "No, you are wrong. I have seen you fight hunger with courage. I have seen you protect strangers with a trembling hand. I have seen you cry and still rise again. Do you know what that means?" She stared at him, unsure how to answer. Her lips parted, but no words came out. He leaned closer, his voice lowering as if he were sharing a secret. "It means you are stronger than you believe. It means your heart is greater than your face. That is what I see." The alien girl's breath caught. She wanted to argue, to reject his words the way she always had. But his eyes burned with honesty, and she could not escape them. "You speak as if you know me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I do," he replied without hesitation. "I know enough. I see enough." Her heart twisted. His certainty was frightening. No one had ever looked at her this way. No one had spoken with such unshaken belief. "You don't understand," she said quickly, almost desperate. "On my world, beauty is everything. It decides who is chosen, who is loved, who is remembered. I was none of those. They looked past me as if I didn't exist." The human's jaw tightened. His fists clenched slightly at his sides. "Then your world is blind," he said sharply. "They do not deserve to decide your worth." The alien girl froze. His words struck her like lightning. His anger was not for her, but for the ones who hurt her. It felt strange, powerful, and heavy. "You," she began, but stopped. Her throat tightened. Tears burned at the edge of her eyes. She quickly looked away, ashamed. The human saw it. He hesitated for only a second before reaching out. His hand rested gently on her shoulder. His touch was warm, steady, unshaking. "Listen to me," he said firmly. "Beauty is not in the eyes of others. It is in the soul. It is in the choices we make, the kindness we give, the courage we show. And you have all of that, more than most humans I've ever met." The alien girl's body trembled beneath his hand. She had heard many cruel voices in her life, but never words like these. Her chest felt too tight to breathe, her heart pounded as if it wanted to escape. "But," she whispered, fighting to resist, "what if I am not enough for you?" The human's grip on her shoulder tightened just a little, enough to stop her shaking. His eyes locked onto hers. "You are enough," he said, every word like a stone, unbreakable. "I don't need you to be anyone else. I don't need you to be more. You are enough, just as you are." Her eyes widened. The tears she had been holding finally fell. She quickly turned her face away, ashamed of her weakness, but he did not move his hand. He let her cry quietly under the night sky. For a long time, neither spoke. Only the fire whispered with small cracks only the stars watched. At last, she wiped her eyes and whispered, "You are strange, human, very strange." The human gave a soft laugh, not mocking but warm. "Maybe, but I will not take back my words." She bit her lip, her chest still rising fast. Then, "What do you see when you look at me?" she asked hesitantly, almost afraid of his answer. He leaned back, his eyes scanning her face slowly, carefully, not with hunger but with truth. He spoke softly, but firmly. I see someone worth standing beside. I see someone whose strength hides. Behind fear, I see someone who thinks she is plain but shines brighter than she knows. That is what I see. Her breath shook. The words wrapped around her like unseen arms. She wanted to push them away, but they clung to her heart. Slowly, she turned back toward the fire. Her eyes glimmered faintly with tears, but her lips curved into something new. Something small, fragile, but real. A smile. It was the first one he had ever seen from her, and it struck him harder than any battle. The firelight danced across her face, and for a moment, he wondered if she even knew how beautiful she truly was. But outside the camp, shadows moved. Voices whispered in the distance. Danger was not far. The night was not safe. And as the alien girl's first true smile appeared, the human's heart swore silently. He would protect it, no matter what came. The fire had almost turned into glowing embers when the alien girl finally spoke again. Her eyes were still on the ground, her hands tight around the blanket. Her smile was gone, replaced by a shadow that seemed to rise from deep inside her chest. You speak as if I am strong, she whispered, but you do not know my past. You do not know what I carry inside me. The human leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. He did not interrupt her. He could see her lips trembling, as if every word was a fight against chains that still bound her. She breathed slowly and her voice grew heavier. When I was small, I tried to be like the others. I tried to walk tall, to speak with pride, but every time they laughed, they said I was weak. They said my face was plain. They called me a shadow, something that lived beside beauty but never had it. Her voice cracked, but she forced herself to continue. At first I thought, if I worked harder, if I was kinder, maybe they would see me differently. So I shared my food. I carried heavy things. I smiled even when I was tired. But still, they only laughed more. They called me desperate. They said kindness without beauty is worthless. The human's fists clenched, his jaw tightened until his teeth hurt. But he stayed silent. He knew this was not the time to speak. This was her storm, and she had to release it. She pressed her hand against her chest. Do you know what it is like to be invisible in your own home? To have a mother who does not look at you, sisters who turn their backs, friends who never call your name? Her eyes filled with tears. She blinked fast, but the wetness slid down her cheeks anyway. Sometimes I thought maybe I was cursed. Maybe the universe had made a mistake by giving me life. The human's breath grew heavy. His heart pounded. As he listened, he had seen wounds on her skin before, cuts and scars, bruises. But now he was seeing wounds far deeper, wounds no eye could touch. Her voice shook as she went on. One day I asked someone I trusted, one of the elders, why no? One cared for me. Do you know what they said? They said, because you are not worthy of notice. Her words hit like a blade, cutting into the silence of the night. The human's eyes burned with rage. His hand gripped the earth beside him, crushing dirt into his palm. He wanted to shout, to break something, to strike the stars themselves for letting her suffer. But he stayed still. His silence was the only shield he could give her now. She drew in a sharp breath. That night, I swore I would never ask again. I would live quietly. I would keep my head down. If no one wanted me, I would vanish from their eyes. That is how I lived, until the day I met you. The last word slipped from her lips before she realized. She froze, her eyes wide, as if she had confessed something forbidden. The human's heart throbbed. He wanted to answer, to say she was wrong about herself, to say she was more than worthy. But he waited, giving her space. She hugged her knees tighter, her voice soft and breaking. So when you say I am strong, when you say I am beautiful, I cannot believe it. My wounds are too deep. My ears have heard too many cruel voices. How can your words erase them? The human finally moved. He leaned closer, his shadow covering her small frame. His hand reached out again, this time with no hesitation. He lifted her chin gently, forcing her eyes to meet his. His voice was low but firm. Because my words are not lies. Her lips trembled, her eyes filled with more tears, but this time they did not fall. They only shined, as if holding a secret light. The human continued, his voice sharper now. They wounded you, yes, but wounds do not decide. Your worth, wounds can heal, wounds can make you stronger, do you not see? You survived. They tried to bury you, but here you are, breathing, standing, fighting. Her chest rose quickly, her breath uneven. But the scars remain, she whispered. Yes, he replied, his eyes never leaving hers. And they make you real. They make you alive, they make you beautiful in ways they will never understand. The alien girl stared at him, her tears finally spilling. She tried to look away, but his hand held her gently in place, not with force but with care. The firelight flickered, painting both their faces in shades of gold and shadow. The night seemed to hold its breath. She whispered brokenly, "You are strange, human. No one has ever said such things to me." He smiled faintly. "Then no one has ever seen you as I do." Her heart pounded in her chest. She pulled the blanket tighter, not to hide from him but to hold herself together. Her wounds had been torn open, but somehow his words wrapped around them like a bandage. For the first time, she felt that maybe, just maybe, her pain could be shared. That maybe she was not alone in carrying it. The night grew colder, but she felt warmth inside. And though she did not say it aloud, a small thought bloomed in her chest. Maybe he was right. Maybe her wounds were not the end of her story, but the beginning. And as the moonlight, stars above shimmered like silent witnesses, the human sat beside her, his heart promising something he had not yet spoken. He would not let her suffer alone again. The fire was almost gone, only red embers glowing in the dark. The alien girl sat close, her silver hair falling over her face. Her eyes were wet, but she tried to hide it. She had spoken her wounds, she had opened the past, yet she was afraid of what he thought now. The human sat quietly, his eyes fixed on her. He could see the cracks in her spirit. Cracks made not by weakness but by years of cruelty. He had heard every word and his chest burned with anger, not at her, but at the world that had broken her. At last he spoke. His voice was steady, heavy with something more than comfort. "Do you know what beauty is to me?" The alien girl blinked, surprised, her lips parted, but she did not answer. She simply shook her head slowly. The human leaned closer, his face half lit by the dying embers. "Beauty is not a face, not a body, not a perfect shape or color. Beauty is courage when fear says run. Beauty is kindness when the world is cruel. Beauty is standing up after you've been knocked down again and again." His words hung in the air. The alien girl's breath caught, her chest rose quickly as if his voice pressed against her heart. He continued, his tone firm but soft. "I have seen many faces, I have walked among humans and aliens, I know what others call beauty, but none of it matters to me. A beautiful face fades, a perfect body grows old, but the heart, that is what lasts, that is what shines, and your heart shines brighter than you believe." Her eyes widened. She stared at him, unable to look away. The way he spoke, it was not poetry, not flattery, but truth, raw and solid. Her lips trembled. "But my heart, it is broken," she whispered. The human shook his head slowly. "No, not broken. Wounded, yes. Scarred, yes. But a scarred heart can still love, still protect, still fight. In fact, it is stronger than one that has never bled." Tears welled in her eyes again, but this time they were not from pain alone. They were mixed with something else, something warmer. She tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "You are strange, human, very strange. Others see my scars and turn away. You see them and call them strength." His lips curved into a faint smile. "That is because others only see with their eyes, I see with my heart." The word struck her harder than she expected. She pressed her blanket closer, trying to hide. Her shaking hands inside her chest, something moved, something she thought had died long ago. Hope. For a long moment, neither spoke. Only the night surrounded them. Only the wind whispered across the camp. Finally she asked, her voice small, "Do you mean it? Every word?" The human's eyes burned like fire, steady and unshaking. "Every word. I do not say what I do not mean." Her throat tightened. She looked away quickly, staring at the stars above. She had seen stars all her life, but tonight, they looked different, brighter, as if they were listening too. He leaned back slightly, giving her space, but his voice carried the same weight. "You said your world did not notice you. You said you were invisible. But to me, you are not invisible. Not for a single moment, do you understand?" Her heart pounded so hard it hurt. She nodded slowly, unable to speak. The human's gaze softened. "One day, you will believe my words, even if it takes time. Until then, I will remind you again and again. You are enough. You are worthy. And your beauty lives in your heart." Her lips parted, a quiet sob slipped out before she could stop it. She covered her face with her hands, ashamed. But the tears flowed freely. The human did not move closer this time. He only sat beside her, his presence strong like a wall against the night. He did not need to hold her. His words had already wrapped around her like unseen arms. When her tears slowed, she lowered her hands. Her face was wet, her eyes red. But there was a faint light in them, a spark that had not been there before. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "You are not like them. You are not like anyone." The human's smile grew warmer. "Good. I don't want to be like them." Her chest ached, but in a strange way, a way that felt alive. She had always thought her heart was only a place of scars, but now, under his words, something new was growing. The night air grew colder, yet she felt warm. The fire dimmed lower, yet her eyes glowed brighter. For the first time, she allowed herself to think a dangerous thought. Maybe she was not worthless, maybe she was not plain. And as the stars shone above, she realized something terrifying and wonderful. The human's heart was not only strong, it was reaching for hers. She did not know if she could accept it fully. Not yet. But the seed had been planted. And in the silence of that night, her heart whispered back to her, "What if he is right?" The dawn was slow, painting the horizon with pale light. The campfire had died, leaving only gray smoke curling into the morning air. The alien girl sat wrapped in her blanket, her silver hair falling around her face. She had cried during the night, but now her eyes were dry. Her heart, however, still beat with the weight of the human's words. The human was already awake. He moved quietly, gathering pieces of wood, sharpening a tool. He worked with calm strength, but his eyes often shifted toward her, checking if she was all right. She noticed, and a small warmth stirred in her chest. No one had ever cared enough to look at her so often, not like this. But the warmth frightened her, so she pulled the blanket tighter, hiding her face. For a while, neither spoke. The only sounds were the soft wind, the crackle of twigs, and distant birds singing. Finally, she whispered, her voice hesitant, "Why are you still here?" The human paused, lifting his head. "Where else should I be?" Her eyes dropped. "You could walk away like the others. You could find someone better, someone more beautiful." He shook his head, his voice firm. "I told you before. I don't care about that." She turned her head slowly, her eyes uncertain. "Then why?" The human wiped his hands and sat closer. His voice was steady. "Because when I look at you, I see something real. And real is more important than perfect." Her heart jumped. She tried to fight the strange flutter inside her chest, but it grew stronger. "You speak so easily," she said, her tone sharp but weak. "Do you not fear I will believe you?" "I want you to believe me," he answered without hesitation. The alien girl stared at him. Her lips trembled. She wanted to argue, but her strength was gone. His words were too heavy, too true. They pressed against her heart until something inside her cracked open, and then, without meaning to, her lips curved, just slightly. A soft smile appeared, fragile and small but real. The human's eyes widened, his breath caught. It was the first time he had seen her smile, and it struck him harder than any battle. The alien girl quickly covered her mouth with her hand, embarrassed. "Do not look," she whispered, turning away. Her cheeks glowed faintly, a blush hidden beneath her pale skin, but the human did not look away. His voice was quiet, full of awe. "You don't know, do you?" She blinked, confused. "Know what?" He leaned closer, his eyes locked on her. "That when you smile, the world feels different, warmer, brighter, stronger." Her chest tightened. She shook her head quickly. "You are lying." "I never lie," he replied firmly. "That smile is proof that you are not broken. It is proof that your heart still shines even after everything." Her hand lowered slowly. Her eyes glistened again, but this time, not from pain. The tears that formed were soft, like mourning. Too. She looked at him carefully, studying his face. His eyes were steady, not playful, not mocking, only filled with something she had never seen before. Respect. For a moment, she allowed herself to believe him. Just a little. For a moment, she felt that maybe her smile was not ugly, not foolish, but precious. The silence stretched, but it was not heavy like before. It was light, gentle like a soft blanket, but then the peace broke. From the distance came faint voices, harsh and sharp. The alien girl's body stiffened instantly. Her smile vanished, replaced by fear. The human's head turned, his eyes narrowing. He recognized the sound. It was a patrol, strangers moving through the forest. Their tone carried anger, searching for something, or someone. The alien girl's hands gripped the blanket, her knuckles white. "They are here," she whispered, her voice shaking. The human rose slowly, his body tense. His hand moved to the weapon by his side. His voice was calm but strong. "Stay close to me." Her heart raced. The warmth of her smile was gone, replaced by the cold reminder of the world outside. But as she looked at him, standing tall, ready to face whatever danger came, a thought entered her heart, clear and sharp. Even if the world hated her, even if enemies hunted them, she was not alone, not anymore. Her lips trembled, and in that moment of fear, she whispered quietly, almost to herself, "Thank you for seeing me." The human glanced at her, his eyes steady. "I will always see you." And with those words, the morning light broke stronger. The forest filled with shadows of danger, but between them, one fragile bond had already begun to shine brighter than the sun. The morning had barely begun when the voices grew louder. The forest air, once calm, now carried footsteps, the crunch of leaves and the sound of weapons being dragged through the dirt. The alien girl froze, her blanket slipping from her shoulders. Her heart pounded as fear gripped her. She knew those voices. She knew the people behind them. They were hunters, her own kind who had mocked her all her life. Now they were searching, not for her beauty, but for her life. The human stood tall. His eyes scanned the trees, sharp and focused. His body was tense but calm, like a soldier who had faced danger before. He reached back and touched her arm gently. "Stay behind me," he whispered. She wanted to protest, to tell him he didn't understand, but the strength in his voice silenced her. She clutched the edge of his shirt instead, her hands shaking. From the trees, 3 figures emerged, tall and armored. Their eyes narrowed as they spotted the human and the small alien girl beside him. One of them smirked. "So this is where you've been hiding, little shadow," he said, his voice dripping with mockery. His eyes slid toward the human. "And with a human? How pathetic." The alien girl's breath hitched. Her old wounds reopened in an instant. The words cut her as they always had. She lowered her gaze, ashamed, afraid. But before her silence could grow, the human stepped forward. "Enough," he said sharply. His voice was calm but carried a weight that echoed through the clearing. The hunters laughed. "And what will you do, human? She is nothing, less than nothing. She belongs to no one. Why protect trash?" The alien girl flinched, her throat tightening. She expected the human to step back, to leave her, to agree with them as so many others had. But instead he moved closer, his eyes burning with fire. "She belongs to me," he said firmly. His hand rested on the weapon at his side. "And I will not let anyone touch her." The alien girl gasped. Her eyes widened in shock. His words rang louder than the hunter's insults. She had never belonged to anyone. No one had ever claimed her, not with pride, not with strength. But here he stood, unafraid, declaring it for all to hear. The hunters sneered. "You think you can fight us for her? For this worthless thing?" The human's voice rose, strong and unshaking. "She is not worthless, she is more than you will ever understand, and if you dare insult her again, you will answer to me." The air grew heavy. The alien girl clutched her chest. Her heart raced. Not from fear alone, but from something new, something powerful. His words wrapped around her like armor she had never worn. The hunters laughed again, though uneasily this time. "Very well, human. If you want to defend her, then bleed for her." They drew their weapons, sharp metal gleaming in the pale light. The human moved quickly, pulling the alien girl behind. Him, his stance firm, his body like a shield. He did not hesitate. His eyes locked on the three enemies. The alien girl trembled, but through her fear, she could not stop staring at him. He was only 1 against 3, yet he looked taller, stronger, as if his courage made him larger than life. The first hunter lunged forward. The human blocked the strike, sparks flying as steel clashed. The alien girl gasped, her hands rising. To her mouth, the second came from the side, but the human spun, his arm striking back. His movements were sharp, practiced, as if every step had been trained for moments like this. The alien girl's eyes filled with tears, not from sorrow but from awe. He was fighting for her, truly, for her. No one had ever done this. No one had ever thought she was worth protecting. Her breath shook, she whispered softly, almost a prayer. "Why? Why would you fight for me?" The human's voice cut through the clash of steel. "Because you matter." The words rang louder than the hunter's blades. They echoed in her ears, filling the emptiness she had carried all her life. But the battle was not easy. The human fought hard, but he was outnumbered. His arm bled from a shallow cut. His breath grew heavy. Still, he did not falter. His body stood like a wall, unshaken. The hunters began to hesitate. Their eyes flickered with doubt. They had expected fear, weakness, surrender. But instead, they faced a human who refused to move, who fought with fire in his eyes. One of them spat on the ground. "Not worth it," he muttered. "Let the fool die with her." Slowly, they backed away, their insults fading as they disappeared into the trees. Their laughter echoed faintly, but it was thinner now, less certain. The human lowered his weapon, his shoulders heaving with breath. He turned and his eyes softened as they landed on her. The alien girl's hands were trembling, but not from fear anymore. Her eyes glowed with something new. Her chest rose with a heavy breath and her lips curved. Not in pain this time, but in wonder. You stood against them," she whispered. "You fought for me, you didn't run." He stepped closer, his voice gentle now. "I told you I will never run from you." Her heart pounded wildly. For the first time in her life, the cruel voices of her people seemed far away. For the first time she felt that maybe she was not a shadow, she was someone worth fighting for. But as she looked into his eyes, shining with strength, she realized something terrifying. Her heart was no longer afraid of him, her heart was afraid of what it meant to need him. The forest was quiet again, but the silence felt different now. The hunters were gone, their voices lost in the distance. Only the human and the alien girl remained, standing in the soft morning light. The human's arm bled from a cut, red soaking through his sleeve. Yet his eyes were calm, steady, still watching her as if nothing else mattered. The alien girl trembled, not from fear this time, but from the storm inside her heart. She had seen him fight for her, stand for her, and speak words no one had ever spoken before. She hugged her, blanket close, but it could not hide the shaking of her hands. Finally she whispered, her voice small, "Why do you do this for me? Why fight? Why bleed? Why stay?" The human stepped closer. His shadow fell across her as he lowered his weapon. His voice was low but firm. Because I see you. Because you are not worthless. Not invisible. Not plain. You are more than they will ever understand. Her lips parted, but no words came. Tears filled her eyes again. She had heard many voices in her life, all cruel, all sharp, but his voice broke through them, cutting away the lies she had carried for years. She shook her head weakly. But I am not beautiful. I am nothing compared to human women. Compared to anyone. The human's eyes burned with fire. His steps closed the distance. He stood before her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. Listen to me, he said, his voice unshaking. Beauty is not what others tell you. Beauty is not a mask or a mirror. Beauty is what shines from inside. It is the courage to keep walking. Even when the world breaks you, it is the kindness you give. Even when no one gives it back, and you have that beauty. Her breath shook. Her heart pounded so loud she could hear nothing else. She stared at him, tears sliding down her cheeks. But she did not look away. The human lifted his hand slowly, carefully. He touched her chin and raised her face toward his. His touch was gentle, as if afraid she might shatter. His eyes softened. You think you are plain, but when I look at you, I see strength. I see light. I see someone who has suffered and still stands. That is more beautiful than any face I have ever seen. Her body froze. His words wrapped around her like a shield, like fire in the cold. Her lips trembled. You really see me that way? Yes, he said, his voice steady. I see you, and I will not stop seeing you. The alien girl gasped. A sob slipped out of her chest, not of pain but of release. Years of wounds cracked open, but instead of breaking her, they spilled into the air and vanished. For the first time, she felt free. Slowly, her lips curved again, a smile, small, shy, but brighter than the sun breaking through clouds. The human's chest tightened. The sight of her smile struck him harder than any blade. It was fragile, but it was real. He had fought for that smile, and now he would fight forever to keep it. The alien girl wiped her tears, her voice soft but clear. No one ever saw me. Before, no one ever called me beautiful like this. I don't know if I deserve it, but your words make me want to believe. Believe it, he said firmly. Because it is the truth. The forest wind brushed against them, carrying away the ashes of the fire. The world felt wider, brighter, as if listening. She stepped closer, her silver hair shining in the light, her eyes lifted to his, glowing faintly with a new strength. Then, if you see me as beautiful, I will try to see myself that way too. His lips curved into a smile, warm and proud. That is all I ask. The silence that followed was no longer heavy. It was peaceful. It was alive. The alien girl's heart whispered. To her, maybe I am not a shadow, maybe I am not worthless. For the first time in her life, she believed she could belong, not to a world that mocked her, but to someone who saw her truly. She whispered softly, Thank you for seeing me. The human's eyes never left hers. I will always see you. Always. And as the morning sun rose higher, painting the sky in gold, the alien girl's smile grew stronger. The scars of her past were still there, but they no longer defined her, because in his eyes she was no longer invisible. She was beautiful, and she finally believed it.